Militarily Speaking, episode 59, Warrior Expeditions.
This episode, we talk with Sean Gobin, founder and executive director with Warrior Expeditions.
Welcome to Militarily Speaking, brought to you by Armed Forces Bank. This is Tom McLean, Jodi Vickery. I work here, Jodi works here, and we're happy to be with Sean this morning.
You should say it with more gusto, like you're thankful and happy to be here. Yes.
Tomorrow.
Yes. I'm happy to be here today because Sean is here today. See how I spend that?
Right.
So welcome to our show. We're excited to have you listening and learning all about our guest, Sean Gobin, and his Warrior Expeditions organization. So welcome, Sean, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I want to take a second and share a little bit with our audience about you. Sean is a United States Marine Corps veteran who served 12 years as an infantry rifleman and armor officer. Thank you for your service. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
After returning home from deployments to both Iraq and Afghanistan, Sean hiked the Appalachian Trail. Do you say Appalachian or Appalachian?
I was going to ask that question too. What's the right answer?
Our first tangent of the day.
Thanks to Jodi.
That's going to open a huge debate depending on where you live. Since I'm from the Northeast originally, it's Appalachian.
Appalachian.
All right.
Okay, so we'll do that for today. I'll try my very best. And then it's like, is it pecan pie?
I know.
I don't even like pecan or pecan pie. But okay, so Sean hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2013. Sean founded Warrior and now serves as the executive director. Again, welcome, Sean. It's really our great honor to have you on the show today. Appreciate you being with us. We always like to give our guests an opportunity at the top of the show to give our audience an overview of your organization. I know we'll get into a lot of different areas of detail as we go this morning, but tell us about Warrior Expeditions.
Sure. So in broad sense, we're a veteran nonprofit outdoor therapy program. And what we do is we help veterans transition from their wartime experiences through long distance outdoor expeditions. And by long distance, I mean 3 to 6 months. We have cross country hiking, biking, and paddling trips that we support. And then what we do is we outfit the veterans with everything that they need to complete the expedition, and then also provide community support along the way.
Fun fact about Sean, right? So you did I'm going to say Appalachian, right? Is that right?
I think that's what we decided.
You did that back in 2012, right? And
Correct.
it normally takes about 6 months. Is that right? You did it in 4.5 months?
That's correct.
How did you do that?
Because I had grad school that started on August 1st.
So you had to accelerate it a little bit?
Yeah. So I had 4.5. I didn't choose to do 4.5 months. I had to do it.
Sprinting the Appalachian Trail.
If I could have done it over again, I would have probably enjoyed it a lot more if I could have taken 6 months.
It's hard to believe that it's 2,200 miles long.
Yeah, I don't think I've walked that far my whole life.
No, but I've been in an airplane that long. It's like going to Hawaii and back almost for what
But
you
on
did.
your feet.
Yeah.
No. No, I don't know if I'm cut out for that, but I admire those that are. That is for sure. This is
What, our 59th episode today, but over the several months and almost 2+ years we've been doing this podcast, Sean, we've had the fortune of having several guests that are engaged with vets and active duty service members, and a common thread seems to be this outdoor element, right? We just had Project Healing Waters not too long ago, and it was a similar mission for the organization, is to get them out of that element, get them into an element where they have the camaraderie and they get to do things in the outdoors. So it's pretty cool to see that your organization does the same thing, but a lot longer time frame. But what do you think it is about getting those people with shared life experiences, the vets, together in that type of setting that helps them get to that place of bonding, openness, healing? Why is it so unique and different than it is maybe in a true therapeutic session? But what's the outdoors? What's the magic?
That's a great question. And that was essentially what I was thinking about for almost the entirety of my hike in 2012, and became the basis for framing Warrior Expeditions and how it's structured today. So essentially, there were 3 components that I found that were incredibly impactful and therapeutic from the experience. The first one was, just time and space in nature to process and decompress from your wartime experiences. When I was on active duty, we called it being on the deployment assembly line. So you were either on deployment and then you get back on the assembly line to get trained up for the next deployment. And there's no time and space to process or come to terms with anything that you experienced during those deployments. And then when you process out of the military, it's equally as hectic and fast. And then you're scrambling, trying to figure out your life on the other side. And so nowhere along those experiences has there been time and space to process what you went through. So through hiking the Appalachian Trail, which took 4.5 months for me, finally gave me the time and space to just slow down and allow my brain to just process everything. And being in nature, void of the distractions of the computer, the news, some menial job, it's just you and your head and nature, and your brain almost has no choice at that point but to kind of start to go through everything you had gone up to that point and kind of come to terms with it and put it away. So that was the first thing that I thought that was therapeutic about the experience. The second thing was I did the hike with another Marine that I was deployed with. And so as you're now spending 4.5 months in nature, processing everything, you've got someone there to talk to that understands both what you went through on the deployments and now what you're going through as you're trying to find your footing on the civilian side. So that camaraderie of having a fellow veteran community to talk to during the experience was also impactful and therapeutic. And then the third thing was all the amazing people that you meet along the way. So you pass through a lot of towns. Every few days, you're passing through towns and doing resupply. And you meet these amazing people in the communities that are just opening up their homes and providing help and support. And so what that does is it helps reestablish a basic faith in humanity that a lot of veterans lose along the way as a result of, if you've been into a lot of kinetic type fighting on the battlefield, fighting other people, your brain starts to associate people with bad. And so when you come home, that association is so seared into your mind that you have a difficulty connecting with people and being around people. And so you almost have to rewire your brain at that point to understand that people are inherently good and that you can safely be around people. And so all of that exposure to all those people along the way helps rewire your brain and reestablish that basic faith in humanity that you may have lost along the way.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize there were people along the way of the trail even that did that, like opened up their homes and took care of you at different spots.
Yeah. So with Warrior Expeditions, we have an entire network of what we call community supporters. And so every 3 to 5 days along the trail, we have folks that will meet our veterans at the trailhead and take them into town and give them a place to stay and a meal. And
that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Take them around town to do resupply shopping and then put them back on the trail. So there's a logistical support component to that, but more importantly, there's a human component to that that's important.
You sometimes reference, and I've in my homework on you reference some individual from 1948, right? That kind of inspired you to do this about, I'm going to walk off my war time, right? And that's kind of what led you to start Warrior Expeditions. And Sean, how soon after you finished your trail for 4.5 months did you start your organization? But talk about your 1948 inspiration.
Actually, I didn't learn about Earl Schaefer until I finished the hike.
Oh,
but I had the same idea while I was hiking the AT, and I was kind of going through my own experience while I was on the trail. I had the idea of, wow, I wonder if this would be as helpful to other veterans as it has been for me. And then as soon as I finished the trail, I got connected with 3 board members from the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. And they reached out and they said, hey, we're interested in creating an outreach program for veterans in honor of the very first through hiker, who was a World War II veteran by the name of Earl Schaefer, who came home from World War II and told his family and friends that he needed to walk the Army out of his system, and then became the very first person to through hike the entire Appalachian Trail. And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, well, yeah, duh, that makes sense. And then as I learned more about the history of the trail and the fact that it seems to attract veterans since its inception, and I immediately knew why. And so yeah, that winter of 2012, we combined forces with those 3 board members of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, and we started building the framework for Warrior Expeditions. At that point, it was called Warrior Hike. And then, we kind of got everything in place real quick. And then that following spring in 2013, we supported the very first group of veterans, 14 of them, for our organization at the time called Warrior Hike. And then that spring they started off.
It's really interesting. A lot of the other organizations we've talked to that embrace the outdoor element have really done more like an extended weekend or a week.
3 or 4 days.
I mean, but the idea of being out in this environment for months at a time, I would think really gives folks to have an opportunity to unwind and unpack what they've gone through on their own time. It's not like forced out because you've only got 3 days to do it in, right? So if you're not ready, you spend time and you just participate in the process. And as there's comfort there, I think a lot of the deeper stuff has a chance to come out.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the big difference with what we do compared to a lot of different other organizations is just, the time on trail and the time out in nature. To have long-term impactful change takes time. Mm-hmm. And so it takes that amount of time to kind of like what I said before, to kind of rewire the brain to have those long-lasting effects. Now, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of the programs that are out there, that the shorter duration outdoor programs do a very useful task in introducing veterans to a new activity that'll get them engaged with people and get them engaged in activities and kind of start that process of finding meaning and healing and all that. But ours, the finding meaning and healing actually takes place during the actual activity because it takes 3 to 6 months to complete.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I'm sure there's a place for both. It's really amazing to me that once a veteran applies and they've been green lighted to participate in an expedition, they really can kind of just come to you as they are, right? They don't really need to know entirely how to do what they're about to do. They don't need the equipment, the gear, the clothing. You furnish all of that. So I think that would make it an opportunity for a broader cross-section of folks, because some of that equipment can probably be pretty expensive, I would suspect.
But let me interject something about the vetting process. Don't you have a couple-step process too? So if people want to embark on a journey, and whether it's one of the 3 options they have, is there a process you take for them and that our listeners can understand?
Sure. So yeah, there's quite an extensive selection process that we have in place for a couple of reasons. First is the demand is super high. We typically get about 400 applications per year for about 40 slots that we can fill. And so basically speaking, what we're trying to do, and when we screen all those applications, is the first thing we're looking for is who needs it. Who is somebody who's struggling with trauma and transition issues that will get the therapeutic value out of the experience that we're hoping that they do. The second thing we're looking at is, can you make the trip? Because in order to get the therapeutic value out of the experience, you have to survive the trail. And so there's a lot of different things that we look at with regards to, resiliency and problem solving to make sure that we're putting people on the trail that have the highest chance of success, because we don't want to set someone up for failure and potentially send someone home worse off than we found them. And so those 2 criteria are the main things we're looking for and selecting. But yeah, then once they are selected, they just got to show up with a toothbrush and we provide everything else. We outfit our veterans with everything they need to complete the expedition, gear, clothing, resupply items. And then we spend a week with them at the beginning. So we rent a big cabin for a few days and everybody meets there, and we go through an entire training package with everybody and how to use all the gear and all the skill sets they need to complete the trail. And then we shadow them up the trail for the first week, and to make sure that we're answering questions and problem solving issues and making sure they're basically generally good to go before we peel off at the end of the week to make sure that they are set up for success.
That's awesome. And so do you rely on partners? You have a lot of interesting, usually you don't see all the outdoor companies as partners, but you have a lot of those on your website. Do you rely on them to donate the gear? Do you have folks, individuals, companies just donate money and you go out and procure the gear? How does that work? And how can people participate and engage in that?
Yeah, so it's about half and half. So all the equipment, clothing, and supplies that we provide to veterans, I'd say half of that is actually fielded by the companies that make those items. So in-kind donations. So for example, Granite Gear donates the backpacks, and Big Agnes donates the tents and the sleeping bags, and Trek donates a lot of the items for the bikes. And then anything that's not donated by those companies, then we use cash donations to purchase everything else that's needed.
Gotcha. And how do folks contribute to that if they'd like to? I know you've got warriorexpeditions.org as the site. Can they do that via your website?
Yeah, sure. So you can go to the website, and there's a donate page there for cash donations, or they can hit the contact us page if somebody wants to be an in-kind donor for gear, or we also get a lot of our community supporters reach out from there as well. So if you live along one of our trails, and we have all the embedded maps on our website, and you want to host some well-meaning but poorly smelling veterans, you can contact us and we can add you to the community support list as well.
That's funny.
You said you had 400 applicants a year, right? And 10% make it?
Yes.
Is that the right? So what do you do with the others, in this case, 360 people that have raised their hand to say, I'd like to participate in an expedition of sort?
Sure. So we tell them to always reapply, because it's more of an issue of limited resources than anything else. And so we say, hey, keep reapplying. And or we also send them a link to some other resources. So one of the organizations that we send out to everybody is Outward Bound, and they provide week-long, fully funded outdoor expeditions for veterans as well. And they have the whole spectrum of activities. They do hiking and paddling and dog sledding and the whole 9 yards. So,
wow.
Yeah, so we send them that their way as well.
I have enough dogs at my own house. I could go dog sledding.
Yeah, but your chihuahuas wouldn't make it.
Chihuahuas probably wouldn't pull me very far, but we'd get maybe to the end of the driveway. We have to take a break.
So that Great American Rail Trail, talk to us about that, because I guess one of the things you expressed too is your gratitude for having, I guess, more trail space, right? Or more opportunities. And that's like they're 50 or 55% of the way there to try to go from the whole East Coast all the way to the Pacific Ocean. But talk about that organization or that event itself.
Sure. So there's a two-part question there. So as I just talked about, we have our sponsors that donate all the gear, but then we also have our partners, which are a lot of the different organizations that make what we do feasible. And so that's everything from the veteran service organizations like the VFWs and the American Legions that are community supporters for a lot of our veterans along the way, but also the land management organizations like the Appalachian Trail Conservancy that manages the Appalachian Trail, and the Rails to Trails Conservancy, which oversees the Great American Rail Trail, which is our bike route. And that's got some interesting history behind it. So when we first started our Warrior Bike program, we were doing the Trans-America Trail, which was the most popular cross-country route that a lot of bikers use, but it's all on road. And so that produces its own challenges of dealing with traffic on a daily basis. And so some of the feedback we were getting from the veterans was, it was a great experience, but the traffic was unnerving and it was kind of inhibiting the therapeutic nature component of what we were trying to achieve. And then I saw a news article that came out that said the Rails to Trails Conservancy had just announced the Great American Rail Trail, which goes from Washington, D.C. to Washington State. And the route is comprised of rail trails, so old railroad lines that they've now converted to walking and biking use only. And so they stitched together all these rail trails to make this cross-country route. And currently it's about, I think, 60% trail and then 40.
Getting better by the minute, right?
Yeah. And every year they keep adding 100 or so plus miles. And so the goal is eventually to make it a continuous off-road route. But that's great. So that we were able to now use this new bike route where 60% of it is not on the road. So we were able to greatly reduce the traffic exposure to that expedition.
Well, you have a lot of support in D.C. too in the political landscape, and then of note, even what Joni Ernst said about how she's in Iowa is taking care of our military and a proponent of allowing this organization to flourish by keeping those trails active and keep pushing forward to make it a better experience in the long run. So I thank you for your initiative and your inspiration to want to keep doing that.
Yeah, not a bad way to spend your time.
So do you have a favorite expedition? You've got 3 options, right, for people. This paddle thing, I don't know if I could do this paddle thing.
I was thinking about that, because I've only driven over the top of a bridge over the Mississippi. I'd be scared.
So is it truly paddling when it comes, is it a canoe?
Yeah, so our 3 crown jewel expeditions that we support is the hiking, which is the Appalachian Trail that goes from Georgia to Maine. It's about 2,200 miles. And then we have our biking expedition, which we just talked about, that goes from Washington, D.C. to Washington State. That's about 3,800 miles. And then our paddling expedition goes the entire length of the Mississippi River. So it starts in northern Minnesota and finishes in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's approximately 2,300 miles. And yep, it's paddling the whole way. Now, the current gets a little bit faster the further south you go. But yeah, it's still paddling all day, every day.
So how long does that typically take, the paddle?
About 3 months. So the paddling and the bike expeditions are about 3 months in duration, and then the hiking expedition is 6 months.
Okay. So hurricane season, because I used to live in Tampa and Sarasota and Naples on that side where sometimes the hurricanes go up on that side.
I don't think they come all the way up the Mississippi River, though.
They do, yeah. They do hit the Gulf, though. In 1 year, we did. We did. They ended right as a hurricane was coming into the Gulf.
No.
So,
paddling right there.
Yeah. So they had to get off the river and kind of wait for it to blow through, and then they finished the last week. So
wow.
So that is a very real, a real concern.
So, but is your favorite, because you probably done all three?
No, I've only done the Appalachian Trail. It's funny. My original intent was before I would start a new program under Warrior Expeditions, I would go out and do the trail myself. But Warrior Expeditions immediately became a 24/7 commitment. And so, yeah, my days of going out and doing expeditions are over. I just facilitate now. But if I could, I think the bike one would be, I would probably go out and do the bike expedition. That's probably the coolest of the three, in my opinion, as of today. Just because I'm really into the bikes now. I rebuild all the bikes and just the cross section of the country that you get to experience. I mean, you're going through small town America for 3 months, over 3,800 miles. And it's such a cool trip because you see such a variety of landscapes and towns. But also when you're on a bike, you're crossing multiple towns a day. So you don't have to carry a lot of supplies. Unlike the Appalachian Trail, where you're carrying 3 to 5 days worth of supplies on your back. And so you're limited in your culinary experience. On a bike, you can actually eat out every meal almost every day if you want to. And so the eating is much better on the bike, in my opinion.
I'm just thinking about all of the fears I would have to tackle for each one of the three options. Like there's fish, there's snakes.
Well, but you're right. I mean, this is a full-time gig for you. Yeah. And I know you've got, I don't know if you're down to just the director of administration, director of development there, but isn't your headquarters in a Winnebago?
Yeah. So our only fixed asset in the organization is our vans. We have 2 vans that we use to do all the trail kickoffs. We don't have an office building. We all work remotely from home. There's 4 of us that run the organization. It's me as a CEO. Angie Miller is our director of admin. She does all of our admin and grant writing. And then Michelle Revoir does our director of development. So she manages all the relationships with all the companies that donate the gear, in addition to our social media. And then Sarah Zeller is our director of operations, and she oversees all of the community support coordination for all of the trails.
Sounds like that director of development is like Jodi Vickery's job, right? Just does a whole lot of stuff, right?
Yep.
To keep it going. The partner and sponsor relationships are pretty critical to your success too. So she's probably doing great work, especially on the social media side, to get more awareness out for you.
Yeah, it's a lot to manage, but on the upside, we're not lacking for content because there's no shortage of awesome pictures from our veterans out on the trails. So
that is awesome. I want to divert a little bit away from expeditions, but maybe come right back to it. I'd love for you to share a little bit about your background, your military experience, and how that impacts what you're doing every day. Because I know you've already talked a little bit about it. There's a direct tie, but I'd love to have you elaborate on that for our audience.
Sure. So I enlisted back in '94. I was an infantry rifleman in the Marines enlisted side. And then I got picked up for a commissioning program after my first tour. And then graduated. I got my commission right before 9/11. So 9/11 happened and immediately checked into the basic school in Quantico, Virginia to complete TBS, and then went on to tank school at Fort Knox, and then checked into 2nd Tank Battalion. And then 10 days later, we deployed to Kuwait for the initial invasion of Iraq. So my first operation on a tank was actually crossing the border from Kuwait into Iraq.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And so that was my first deployment. And the second deployment was in 2005, fighting in Fallujah as a tow and scout platoon commander, which is basically a Humvee mounted infantry. And then my last deployment in 2011, I spent a year in Afghanistan training the Afghan National Security Forces, which we all kind of saw how that unfolded, which I could have told you that 10 years ago, which was actually the main reason I got out. I kind of became disenchanted with our mission over there. And so life is short. So when I decided to move on, I was also struggling quite a bit after 3 deployments. And so I knew I needed to change the lifestyle to kind of get my head straight. But all of that experience, it served me well in the second chapter of my life now with Warrior Expeditions, because just kind of understanding the trauma associated with multiple deployments, and then my own personal experience of how the outdoors helped with that. Just to have that perspective is important. But also all of my experience as a Marine and a military officer has served me well in structuring these expeditions, because they're essentially deployments.
Sure. Yeah.
Without the shooting. And so you're basically getting everybody prepped and outfitted and trained, and then managing them as they're going through the expedition. So it's a lot of planning, a lot of logistics. And so, yeah, it's very, very similar, very similar job skill set.
It's a very interesting journey. I mean, because there's just direct application in each step that you've taken and you've shared with us today as you've moved through that to now where you're helping a whole lot of other vets navigate what you navigated on your own when you came back.
I know. You've got certain events that take place during the year that you want to share with our audience too. I think on an annual basis, you've got a reunion hike coming up on Veterans Day. Is that still going?
Yes. So we have... Yeah, it's kind of every season has its different tasks that you kind of have to oversee. So obviously we've got the expedition season, which we're in right now, where we're supporting the veterans that are out on the trails. And then they wrap up around the fall. And then in the fall, one of the last events that we put on is the reunion hike. And so anyone that's gone through any of our programs, we host an event where everyone can come back, get together, and kind of reconnect with folks they did an expedition with, or meet other folks that did the expeditions either before them or after them, or the different types of expeditions. And so it's just an opportunity to kind of, reconnect and reconnect with veterans and get outside and enjoy doors again. And
share experiences, right? And just share stories and build new friendships too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm going to probably bludgeon this, but you've got like the George Diem Memorial. You've got the Rockledge Rumble.
Oh yeah, those are fundraisers.
Fundraisers that take place like in certain markets around the country.
Yeah, so we have a wonderful network of folks that reach out throughout the year that host events and that put on fundraisers in honor of warrior expeditions and help raise money for the organization. And so it's everything from golf tournaments to long distance runs to poker runs, motorcycle rides, to you name it. There's various events that go on throughout the year that are fundraisers for us.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on his life in military, but talk about what's happening today. When you got out and started this mission, it sounds like this is the perfect fit for you too. Especially you have a Charity Navigator score of 4 stars. So congrats to you.
Oh, thanks.
Which typically that means you're giving a lot of the money back to the organization and doing great work too. So the reviews on your organization are stellar out there. I do believe everything I read on the internet, Jodi.
I know you do, Tom. I know you do.
So what's a typical day look like now? Again, you've got a very thin staff, right? They're lean and they're productive. But what's a day like today, maybe from when you first started the organization to being recognized by CNN with the Hero Award, right? See, I'm kind of throwing that in there too, because I want Sean to talk about the award he got too back almost a decade ago. But yeah, talk about the award, then transition into what it looks like today for you.
Sure. Yeah. So the CNN Heroes thing was huge. That was our third year in. And so I learned at business school that year 3 is basically the make or break arc of most organizations. And so when I got selected to be a CNN Hero, that offered the organization a massive amount of exposure and resources. And at that point, we were able to expand to a bunch of different trails and kind of solidify the long-term health of the organization. So that was a great experience and a great honor to have been recognized for that. But yeah, now moving forward, a typical day for Sean Gobin is there is no such thing. It's every day is different. It's really seasonal, kind of how I mentioned before. We're in expedition season right now. And then once that wraps up, I go into what I call admin season. So the fall is basically sending out all the thank you letters to all of our community supporters and our sponsors and our partners. And then we have all of our end of year wrap up admin stuff. So we close out our books, make our annual report, do our audits. And then we start the application screening process. So that takes about 2 months just to go through the 400 applications. And so then we're in application season. And then we usually send out the notifications. My goal is to send out the notifications on Christmas morning. That seems to be an added
awesome.
boost of excitement.
Awesome.
That makes you like Santa Claus.
Yeah. We'll try to send those out on Christmas morning. And then from January to March, we're just doing expedition prep. So we're getting all of the gear acquired and organized and built. And yes, it's all just gear prep. And then the spring starts, we start hitting the road and doing all of the kickoff training and orientation packages for all the various trails. So we're on the road for spring, first half of the summer, and then back into where we are now, which is just managing the expeditions that are currently ongoing.
Going back to the fundraiser idea, so for our audience, if they want to do a golf tournament or want to do something to help raise money for that, do they have to go through the website and connect with you, or do you get one of those Christmas morning surprises that it says, wow, we just raised X amount of dollars for your organization, we're going to send you a check? How does that work if they want to do a fundraiser around the country?
Yeah, both. We've had a lot of surprises in the mail over the years. And so people are just like, hey, we did a 5K and here's a check for such and such. And we've also had folks that contact us and they want to work in conjunction with us. So we'll, put it on the website and help promote it. And so, yeah, we're happy to work with folks, or if people just want to go ahead and do something and send a check. That's all great too.
I'm trying to make nice with Sean because I want that hat.
I noticed you haven't asked to go on an expedition.
Well, that's gonna be like 300.
He goes, I want to follow along in like a chase vehicle just so I can film all of it.
We can probably work out a hat for you.
If I'm going to do this, I'm going to go big. I'm going to do the 3,700 mile deal.
I want to see you in the kayak for 2,300 miles.
No, I'd go with 23 seconds.
You'd show up with floaties on. That's amazing. So I'm curious, I know you said that sort of running the organization has kind of taken over how you need to spend your time, and that makes total sense. But as you've encountered vets that you've helped along this journey, even just in the process of getting them kicked off, prepared, meeting them through the application process, are there a couple of stories or a really great story you'd want to share with our audience that just relays how impactful this can be in the life of maybe an individual veteran?
Well, I'll tell you a story that applies to a lot of them because we hear a lot of the same feedback later on after the expedition. And so, but I'll start it off with one thing I explain to the veterans when we do the training and orientation part in the beginning. I explain to them like, hey, listen, there's no cure and there's no magic bullet for trauma. Once you've experienced something, it kind of changes you forever. But the secret is to now structure your life in such a manner to live the most healthy and productive and happy life that you can. And so for me and a lot of the veterans that find us, the outdoors are kind of their passion and their vehicle to finding that. And so I explained to the veterans like, hey, at the end of the expedition, you get to keep the gear. First of all, because it smells terrible and we don't want it back. But more importantly, we want you to use the outdoors as your long-term coping strategy. So when you finish your expedition, it's kind of like hitting a mental, physical, and social reset button. And you're going to be in a great place to start whatever the next chapter of your life is. But inevitably, the stressors and triggers of life will, eventually rear their head. And so the key is to now use the outdoors as your long-term coping strategy and just get outside as much as you can, whenever you can, and kind of find that peace and healing and happiness again. So a lot of our veterans, they do one expedition. And next thing you know, you see on Facebook the next spring, they're out doing another trail and they're all over the country doing all kinds
Can't contain them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they migrate to RVs. And so, then they go get themselves an RV or a camper, and now they're exploring the country in a little bit more comfort.
Right. RVs are easier on the knees.
Yeah, exactly. And then the third phase, which I'm in right now, is you build yourself a cabin in the woods somewhere and just kind of surround yourself with nature and peace and healing and enjoy the serenity of life for the long term. And so that seems to be the common thread of sequence of events that we see a lot of veterans taking after their expedition.
That's awesome.
By the way, he just put a plug in for RV companies to reach out to you to partner and support as they graduate from the stress of actually physically doing it. Then the RV part of their lives comes in. Now they're gonna want to advertise with you.
Yeah, well, we've had a great relationship with Winnebago over the years. Again, we use our van campers to do the kickoffs, and so Winnebago has been super supportive with maintenance and modifications, and then they even donated a travel trailer to us a few years ago. So they've really helped us facilitate being on the road for 3 to 6 months out of the year doing these trail kickoffs.
So your war buddy with whom you did the AT several years ago, was it your choice or his choice or her choice to actually make the decision to do this? And did you both want to do it?
So actually, it was my idea because I had, when I was a kid, traveling around the country. My mom was a teacher, so we had the summers off, and so we'd travel around the country in an RV in the summers. And I remember being in the Shenandoah National Park and seeing the trail with the white blaze on it, and then reading the sign below it that said, "This is the Appalachian Trail that extends from Georgia to Maine, and people actually hike this." And so that memory was seared in my brain, and I'm like, all right, one day I'm going to do that. And so when I decided to get out of the Marines in the spring of 2012, and I knew grad school wasn't starting until the fall, I'm like, well, this is the opportunity to do it. And so I started talking about it, and my buddy was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a great time." So yeah, so off we went.
How do you feel on mile 2,106? Still a great time.
So we covered a lot of ground, and just want to know, Sean, if there's something else that we didn't bring to our audience attention, or something that you want to share, something that came up during our conversation today that would be good to impart some additional knowledge or information about your organization to our audience, then please feel free to do so.
Yeah, I would just say if you're a veteran, or a veteran who's kind of been struggling since getting out of the service as a result of their combat deployments, and they enjoy the outdoors, yeah, look us up and put an application in. And then for anybody that, like I said, would be interested in supporting us, either financially or as a community supporter, like I said, we've got those maps listed on the website. Yeah, feel free to reach out. We're always looking for additional support so we can help put more veterans out on trails.
Sounds like you found a great place to live and probably retire, right? Ultimately, you'll probably want to stay in Hillsville for a while, but you're also from Rhode Island, right?
Correct.
When's the last time you were in Rhode Island?
Oh, it's been a number of years.
Okay. We won't date yourself on that one. Yeah.
But yeah, Virginia's kind of when I hiked through Virginia, it was my favorite state by far. And so I decided that, yeah, this is where I need to.
That's where you call home now. Yeah.
So over the pandemic, I had a cabin built right off the Blue Ridge Parkway. So I got the Blue Ridge Parkway as basically my backyard that I can take the bike out and do rides on a regular basis. And the Appalachian Trail is not too far from here either. So yeah, it's a great place.
My daughter's always loved Rhode Island. She's never been there, but
I know.
She thought it was just a quaint little place.
You hadn't brought up anything random for the whole so that was your random.
I have two daughters, Sean, so I have to make sure I give them equal billing. I'll keep them nameless, but they want me to talk about them, but they never listen to me.
They're in your fan club. That's awesome. You got party of two in the fan club.
It's time for the military minute. What do you think?
Yes, I think so. So bear with us here for just a moment. We're going to, as we wrap up the podcast, play our awesome. We think it's awesome.
I hope.
Nobody else might like it.
At least two people do.
Yes, yeah. Tom and Jodi think it's awesome. We're going to play Military Minute. On our last episode, our Military Minute question of the day was about the year 1979. We're not going to ask everybody what we were doing in 1979.
That was 15 years after he enlisted.
Yeah.
So he's got to know this answer.
So you can answer this one if you know the answer. I would not have known the answer, which is the case for most of our Military Minute questions. But which movie won the Academy Award for the Best Picture in 1979?
79.
Like, who would know that just off the top of your head?
I would. You got this.
Siskel and Ebert would know that. Or
Well, Ebert. Well, I think Siskel and Ebert are both gone, aren't they?
I think they are. I mean, I wouldn't call them and ask them.
I have no idea. I mean, I'm trying to think of the big movies of that time. I mean, Star Wars, maybe?
Kind of got an outdoorsy feel to it.
It's got a military feel to it, right?
There's an animal in the name. No.
It rhymes with beer. The first name, it's 2 words.
Now we're playing charades. So the answer is Deer Hunter.
Oh, yeah. All right. Robert De Niro.
Oh, yeah. He did know. I'd like, good job you for making Tom feel good that you knew it. So, but fast forward to this week's Military Minute, and you probably, I would think you might know this. I'm going to say he knows it. But you can't answer because this is for our audience. So just think the answer really hard. It's a question about hiking. What 3 trails constitute the Triple Crown of hiking?
I definitely know that one, but I won't give it away.
Okay. Oh, don't answer. So yeah, I figured you would. That's kind of.
I'll give you the answer.
You can't say the answer either. So I knew there was a triple crown of like horse racing. Now I know there's a triple crown of hiking. So if you guessed or answered, not guessed, I'm sure it was an educated answer, Deer Hunter on our last podcast, watch for your name And if you're selected as the lucky winner, you'll get $50 for you and $50 for a charity of your choice. And if you know what 3 trails constitute the Triple Crown of hiking, watch for this podcast to drop and enter your answer. And you too could be eligible to win the same. And then you can go to warriorexpeditions.org and put that money to good use.
Is it Appalachian or Appalachian?
I think we decided it was Appalachian.
Okay.
Appalachian.
So, yeah, just
But then he started calling it the AT, which takes
know.
all of that out of the mix.
Yeah, you can shorten it.
Yeah, I'm going to do that with all confusing words from now on. Just shorten them.
Sean, you're a seasoned pro at this, so thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was my honor.
It's great info that our audience is going to love to find out more about. It sounds like the demand is pretty heavy out there, so expect more applications down the road. And you're doing such great work in advancing the mission and getting it bigger and better every year. So
Absolutely.
nice work. And if you enjoyed today's episode, go out to afbank.com and subscribe to the show. Also, make sure to rate us and leave us a comment on your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Again, an honor from this end of the table that you can see us on the screen, and we appreciate all that you do for our veterans and all that you do with these wonderful events you have to help them through these difficult times.
It was a pleasure to meet you today.
I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Sean, have a good day.
Thank
Thank you very much. Copyright Armed Forces Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All non-Armed Forces Bank owned apps, websites, company names, and product names are trademarks or registered trademarks of their respective owners. Their mention does not imply any affiliation with or endorsement by Armed Forces Bank of them or their products and services. They are merely used as examples of the many available apps, companies, and websites that offer similar services. Before using any app or website, you should carefully review the terms of use, data collection, and privacy policy. Apps may have an initial cost or in-application purchase features. This information is general in nature and is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Although Armed Forces Bank believes this information to be accurate, it cannot ensure that it could change. Statements or opinions of individuals referenced herein are their own, not Armed Forces Bank. Consult an appropriate professional concerning your specific situation and respective governing bodies for applicable laws, such as irs.gov for current tax law. Armed Forces Bank, the Armed Forces Bank logo, and the Militarily Speaking logo are registered trademarks of Armed Forces Bank.